There we go.
All right, we're live. How is everybody?
What's up, guys?
Who all do we have in the house so far? Andy Wood was first here. Imagine that. That was amazing.
There we are.
Unfinished project. Unfinished project. He's been here for about 3 days.
What's a front row?
It's amazing. Yeah. Unfinished project. Unfinished project. He's been here for about 3 days.
What's a front row?
Yeah. Unfinished project. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Make sure I got some feedback.
Yep, I do hear that.
I need to check that out real quick.
Sure. I'll just kind of talk. What's going on here? So, Andy, Lot Burns, good to see you. Unfinished project, hey. Arta Debarina, howdy guys. Howdy back.
Yeah. See if that goes away.
Howdy guys. Howdy back.
Yeah. Well, that's the strangest thing. So now I've got feedback where I didn't before. See if that goes away.
It's like delayed, you know?
Oh, I know what's going on. Yeah.
Okay.
I know what's going on. Well, that's the strangest thing. So now I've got feedback. There, that should fix it.
Nice.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go. I have to have a browser open for visual. And what's so tough is, so now there's a few of you guys starting to come in here. I want to say hi to Ari. Ari's a channel mod over on Uncle Tony's Garage, and Perry Ford. Appropriate. So since there's so many Ford people here, I had to wear the shirt that Andy likes so much. Someday people who own a Ford are going to want an automobile. John Dodge.
Thanks, John.
And most of my friends are Ford people. Just
Really?
the way it works out. So,
Nice.
But no, so you guys can see it's completely blank behind me. I didn't go to a green screen to make it that boring, but so I was working on a studio in my shop, and I had a minor shop fire in April. I turned over a pan of solvent, and just it caught a spark, and just it looked worse than it was, but a lot of smoke damage, big mess. So I decided to move in here, at least temporarily, and been rearranging the office, rearranging monitors and cameras. It's a new camera. I've never used it before. So studio is going to get pretty good, but right now there's nothing here. But I got a few things I've gotten from fellow YouTubers that I already want to put up on the wall. And supposedly there's going to be a piece of Casper's engine. I asked Andy to save me a piece of that 393 he grenaded. We're going to put it up too.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of memorabilia back there. That's a green screen back there.
Yeah, right. You don't really have any of that stuff. It's all just a green screen.
Yep. Yeah. That's cool.
So I'm going to show a video, and this will just be, the reward for people getting here early. I'm going to try to do this. Not done this before. Be a little experiment. I'll get a video, and you can narrate this for us. All right?
Okay.
Let's see if it'll do it.
Oh, yeah. Here we go, boys.
All right. Tell us what happened here. So for you guys, I'll bring you guys up to speed on what this clip is. If you look in the far lane, that's a 69 Cougar, I believe it is.
It is.
That's your ride, and you went on the ride of your life. Tell us about this clip. What happened there?
You know what? I'll tell you. I built a new motor. This is a 408 Cleveland. Before that, I ran a 385 Cleveland. Was running 10-Os, 999 at the best. So I just increased the stroke to 408, and went out there with a pair of competition engineering shocks, front shocks, the 3-way adjustable. Put it on 90-10. That was a mistake because there was no control in the front end, and it picked it up like this. What happened was the fuel pump that I have mounted on the back hit the track.
Oh, wow.
Lifting the car, and the car kind of pivoted on that fuel pump, went down to the side. It was actually like this. The front fender was dragging the track, and then it came back over. Yeah.
Whoa. You mean you had it on the fuel pump?
Yeah, I hit it. Yeah, dragged right on it, man.
That's wilder than I thought.
I mean, look at it. I don't know if you can see it. See it?
Wow, that's a wild look. What kind of fuel pump is that?
Barry Grant.
Ah, man.
So it dragged, and the car pivoted on that, put me right over on the side. I'm lucky I didn't just roll it, man. Thank God.
Yeah, I know. That was a good save.
Smashed the oil pan, fixed it, put in John Calvert's front shocks.
Right.
That are 90-10, and went and did it again. The exact same thing. This time it didn't crash, but I got great pictures. And it still dragged the bumper, you know. And then I realized I either need to get wheelie bars or good front shocks.
Right.
And really, you don't need wheelie bars. All you need is good front shocks.
Yeah.
I got a pair from Mark Menser, put them on there, bam. Right down in the 9s.
So you're just keeping the travel on the front end managed.
Right.
Now.
You know, if you want leaf springs to work, whether it's, you know, Calvert's monoleaf, you know, the bottle rocket, whatever, you know, monoleaf is the best thing you could do. But you need that weight transfer to plant those tires. You know, with Caltrax, you need at least 5 inches of front end travel to get that planting, to get that to hook.
Right.
So
I didn't know what the number was, but yeah, you got to have some travel to make them work.
At least 5 inches, they say.
Yeah.
But you know, you can still have 5 inches, but how fast do you raise that 5 inches? If you
jerk
like this uncontrollably, if you start pulling up on it slow, that's how you control the planting of the tire along with the wheel speed. You know what I'm saying? The rear shock settings. That's how you get your 60 foot.
So what's the weight distribution in that car?
You know what? I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. It weighs 3275 last I weighed with me in it.
Okay, that's not bad. You've lightened it up a little bit then.
I mean, I could put, you know, Lexan in it, fiberglass doors maybe, but, you know, take out the interior. But I want it to be I want it to be the kind of car that you drive.
That's not bad for a Cougar. I figured it'd be heavier than that.
It was 3,500 before with iron heads, so I got it down to 3275.
Okay.
So,
how long have you had that car?
40 years.
40 years.
40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
the job is 40 years old.
So it's lived in the garage, obviously.
Yeah, for the most part. You know, I drove it all the time, and then I got to the point where it was just a race car, and I would still drive it on the street. But I mean, how far are you going to go? You know, in a 9-second car, around the block, go get some stuff, run to the store. But you know, it's not a highway car, that's for sure.
So, but that was a daily driver at one time. It was probably just like a 302 automatic.
351 Windsor, 2-barrel.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it started with. And then I started getting into the cars. I'd already been into Glidden since like 75 and 76.
Yep.
You know, I wanted a Cleveland in there. So with the Windsor, you put the intake on, put a 4-barrel on, dual exhaust. You know, you think you're bad, you might run 16s, you know.
Well, you know,
how it starts.
You know, you mentioned that going from the Windsor to the Cleveland. I wish that Chrysler had developed the Poly instead of the LA.
Okay.
Because they wanted to make a narrower, lighter, small block engine. So what they did is I don't know how familiar you are with small block Chryslers, but they have a 59-degree lifter angle.
Let me stop you there. Let me interrupt. So the LA is what, the 318, the 340?
Yes, 360, 273.
There's 270, 273.
Yes.
Okay.
It's when people say small block, that's almost exclusively what they mean.
Okay, I got it.
But its predecessor prior to 1967 was the Poly. And the Poly is a bigger engine. And if you look down inside the lifter valley of a small block Chrysler, you'll see that the lifters lay down at kind of a weird angle.
Okay.
They're 59 degrees. So it almost looks like they're laying further down into the engine than they should. And what that is it's kind of a remnant of the evolution of the Poly. because the poly actually had the heads out at that really low, wide angle, which made the engine look so much bigger.
Okay.
So Chrysler kept that block and everything, and then they put a smaller, lighter, it's not the same block, but they kept that same architecture. They put a smaller, lighter head on it with a great exhaust side, and it became the Light A engine, or LA, Light A.
Yeah.
But even though the engine is a little smaller and a little lighter, what I liked about that poly is because it was a lot more like the Cleveland. It had canted valves.
Okay.
And I thought it had a lot of potential. Now, the poly heads, there weren't any performance poly heads at all. And there's not enough there to work with to make them scream. But I think that was the engine they should have developed. And the blocks are real beefy. In fact, I'm pretty sure that that's the block that Glidden used in his 79 W2 headed engine. He used a poly block, I'm thinking.
I know that they made the guy, Arnie Clan, the guy that owns the 74 wire car, he told, and that's got the Glidden motor in it with a W2 head. He said that they only made like 100 of these blocks, especially made blocks, and that most of them blew up or were gone, except for the ones that Glidden had furnace brazed. There's like 4 of them.
Okay, wow.
That's the story I heard, or something like that.
You know, there's so much mystique about what he did because he was so secretive, and rightfully so, because those guys were inventing the wheel.
They were.
And it wasn't just him. I mean, you know, he did it, Warren Johnson, Frank Iconio, all of those guys, they weren't going to show you the stuff they did. You know, like on YouTube today, guys will try something for performance, and we'll show you video when they do it. And it wasn't like that for these guys who were racing for a living.
Right. No way, man. That was their bread and butter.
Right.
They died, you know, they either won or they starved.
So one of the first things I noticed about your channel that just made me go, oh, wait a minute, what's that? Is you are showing the insides of those 70 Pro stock engines.
Oh, yeah.
That's like totally taboo. I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, you're going to put a hit out on him. But there's no one to put a hit out on you anymore and no reason to. But I just thought that was fascinating. Well, that's how your channel got on my radar.
I'm going to tell you, I'm working on this video. It was only going to be like 10 minutes. A week for Bob Glidden, going from racing to tearing a motor down in his shop with great pictures and everything outlined. Then I got into this obsessive mode, and now it's like 47 minutes long. So it's like I'm in a quest, and I'm going to finish it. I don't care if it's an hour long. It's going to be like the best videos because I have all of his cars almost in chronological order with all their engines, and you can see everything. That's what I like about it. No one shows you the engine and the car at the same time. So
no, you know, and then now there's this move to go back to trying to show the fans more. What was it, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they went to fuel injection in Pro Stock.
Yeah.
Not that it matters because all the personality had been completely drained out of them anyway. But, you know, they have to back the cars in now. And I don't know. I don't think – who cares anymore? I think the cars have just lost all the personality worth seeing. But those old racers would never have gone for that. The new generation of jockey drivers doesn't care.
They're in it for the money, man, not the enjoyment.
Do you? I saw something. I don't know how long ago it was. It's not very long. Maybe just like a year or two ago. One of the drivers, and he's racing now in Pro Stock. What's his name? Drove the Total Seal car. He's a newer jockey driver guy. They actually did some close up tech segments on the internet with their car. They had a valve cover off. And they're cranking this thing over, showing cranking compression, showing the springs and retainers, and not be that much exotic in there, but still for Pro Stock, that's pretty impressive. Most people won't do that. And they showed a clutch service and all with the transmission out of the car, but when they showed the rear end, the 4-link, they had rags taped over every heim joint. They didn't want anybody to see their setup on the chassis.
Really?
So I thought that was interesting. But that's more than, Matt Hartford. There you go. Bob Ganshaw guys, Matt Hartford. I can't ever remember. All of those guys with the blonde hair with product on it, they all run together.
Look, I got the same haircut since 1975.
Right. Right.
But, I quit watching racing in 2003 probably. I just stopped.
Yeah.
I got no enjoyment out of it. All the cars look the same, and I don't need all that. You know, I want to concentrate on what I enjoy doing with the time I have. So. You know I'm a realist, too, and I tell you, 14 good years, baby. You know?
It's actually 5,111 days to be exact.
Nice.
Because you seem to have this exact number, so I figured it up for you. So had that number ready for you. But no, so I remember, of course, I watched Pro Stock when I was a kid, and my favorite class by far. I like it way more than it. Fuel classes are okay. I mean, who doesn't want to see a 300-mile-an-hour bomb go down the track? It's okay, but Pro Stock is where it's at. That is my favorite class, bar none. So I remember watching it in the 80s. Always loved watching the Glidden and Johnson rivalry.
Yep.
I remember when Shepard, had his thing. That was just so sad. Who knows what all he would have gone on to do, right? Who knows what all he would have gone to do if he got wrecked in was spring '85 in Gainesville. But I remember when I was in college, Pro Stockers. It was into that weird, I want to call it a malaise era, where they had the neon and they were coming off the Avenger, and they had all these weird different sizes of bodies. And you still had a lot of manufacturers. Like you still had Pontiac and Oldsmobile and Dodge, and Ford was still in it. And they had 10 different winners the first 10 races. I remember that. And so that was interesting. The competition was okay, but that was kind of like the last hurrah for a really exciting series.
Oh, yeah.
We saw some of the cheating accusations in the early 2000s because the KB teams advanced so far. But like you said, 2003 might be the last year you watched. Ever since then, it's been practically common template, rented engines, jockey drivers, and it's just not been the same.
No.
That's why I enjoy, like your content so much.
Well, thanks. And that's what I'm trying to do. Keep the Cleveland alive. Keep Pro Stock alive. Because I just said this the other night. It's to Andy. This is the sands of time already covering up this period of time. So I'm trying to blow it off and drag it up one last time, because after that it's done. You're not going to see it again. The generations are going to have forgotten it. The generations that remember are going to be dying off. They're dying off daily. Look at Dick Aaron's just passed last week. And so it's sad, but progress happens, and that's how it is. I guess I'm stuck in time. With the way the world is going today, I feel more comfortable being back trapped in time in 75, those years that I enjoy, for a hobby. That's what I want to do, is bring that back.
Well, there's something to that. There's something to that. Like, I don't want to drive a vehicle made in this century.
No.
So a 2002 CRV is the newest vehicle I have, because I don't want anything with screens in the dash. I don't want anything with all that. That's just me. That's a personal choice. I live in an older house, drive older vehicles. There's just not that appeal to me with the modern technology. It almost just feels like it's accelerating me to death.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I think it comes down to a certain point of time and where you are in your age. You have to look at where you are. Once you get past 50, your life's half over, man. You got to look at
half over if you live to 100.
Huh?
It's only half over if you live to 100. Most people don't.
Exactly. Being a generalist, but the bottom line is you got to. It's slipping by so fast. You got to enjoy what you got to enjoy while you can. It's gone in a snap of a finger.
Well, speaking of mortality, I'm curious. So you're what is it you do? I know that you work in the medical field. You're like a physician's assistant. Is that what your title is?
Yeah. Here's the deal. I'll just make it real easy. I'm a PA, physician assistant, for the last 22 years. So I helped start a program in Syracuse, New York, back in '96.
Okay.
And been working as a PA since '98. 2 years of orthopedics and orthopedic surgery, 13 years of cardiac surgery, open heart surgery, and now 8 years in the emergency room. So I've been around in like the medical field, and I was a mechanic before all that. I worked, and then at night I went to school to better myself to do something, because I didn't want to be a wrench all the time. That was about the 80s when Chrysler came out with a 2.2. They had head gasket problems. We were changing them all the time.
Yep.
Zip tying the timing belts and all this crazy stuff to get it done and get it out.
Yep.
And, ECMs had just started. And you either got to go that direction or you pick a different route. And I picked a different route.
It's funny you say that because I went to trade school right at the advent of OBD2. Okay. So probably 30% of our school cars that we had to work on were OBD2, and probably a small majority of them were not.
Okay.
And, I thought about it. I did well in the program and all of that stuff, but I thought, you know what? I could see where it was going. I said, you're going to be a computer technician that can turn a wrench instead of a mechanic.
That's exactly.
And I ran. I've been a real estate broker. I'm in my 19th year now. And so I said, I want to keep my hobby and my business separate. And I have all these years.
Okay.
Was it the right call? I don't know. But, I enjoy my hobby. There's never a day when I get to work on a car that I dread it. It's not like I'm working on a Ford Explorer, that had something break in the timing set up. I mean, that's what makes people not want to do this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Believe me.
There couldn't be a bad day looking under the hood of that Cougar when you have to do something.
Yeah.
Seriously.
But it isn't. It's not bad to work on at all, really. After you cut the shock towers back, you got some room to work on.
Yeah, tell us about cutting the shock towers back because, so I'm a Mopar guy.
Yeah.
And shock towers are something we don't have. Maybe we're spoiled.
That's because you got torsion bar suspension, so that's
right.
The spring. You still have a shock, but that's controlled to the lower control arm.
Right.
That torsion bar, Fords have the big coil spring on top of the upper control arm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
which is crazy.
Right. Exactly. So that makes the engine compartment so narrow in that area, especially on the exhaust side. That's why Cleveland heads don't flow great unless you cut the ports off, and put the port plate on like the Pro Stock guys.
That's the thing that keeps me from having a Ford. I mean, there are some beautiful Fords. I think my favorite Ford is probably a 68 or 9 F100. Ooh. But I look up underneath of it and I look at that twin I-beam stuff and all of that, and I just no. But I like Fords. I mean, I think they're really cool vehicles, certainly. But what do you do to combat that round coil spring tree trunk shock tower?
I mean, the easiest thing is that's what the Mustang 2 suspension is. When the Mustang 2 came out in '74, that suspension eliminated that coilover aspect. The coil on top of the spring. So it had a whole different setup. So you had a wide shock tower. You could put a big motor in that aspect. Otherwise, you got to cut the shock towers out, notch them, cut them out past the control arm towards the spring as much as you can to bring them out, and then weld a plate in there so that you can get room to put headers on and get in there to work.
Did people go to a smaller coil spring, or what were some of the other measures that people have tried maybe?
I mean, there's really no way to change it unless you cut out that change to either a McPherson strut type setup, right? Or you go Mustang 2 with like a where the spring is between the upper and lower control arms, like on a GM.
Okay.
That's really the only way to combat it. You can notch them and cut them as much as you can, but they're in the way. I just haven't had it in me to cut them all the way out of there.
I get that. You want it to maintain the flavor and character it was born with. Right. You want it to still be a Ford.
Right. I want it to be. I like roll up windows. I like the doors to open and shut. I like the gauges, the glove compartment. I always want a car that's a street car that runs 950s. That's what I want.
You got it.
So
that's cool.
That was my goal.
So a friend of mine, he died here 3.5 years ago now. He raced a 71 Mercury Comet GT.
Yep.
So it looked like a Maverick, but it had different taillights and all. And that thing ran way down in the eights. I think he ran about best of 840 with it.
Wow.
With a 460 based 528.
Yep.
And he had because you guys are talking about port plates on the Live with Andy.
Mm-hmm.
He had radically angle milled heads, and these were Dove castings, DOV castings ported by Causey back in the day. angle milled severely, and then the port plate to try to fix that exhaust side. And of course, he didn't have any. The whole front. The car had been front clipped.
Yeah.
So it had a modern front clip, plenty of room. But that was my first experience dealing with that exhaust side on Fords. And I'll tell you, when you fix it, man, it just opens a huge pile of power in those engines. I think that's probably, I don't know, I'm not a Ford mechanic, but it seems to me like that's like you guys' biggest thing to open up and solve. And when you do, look out.
Especially for a Cleveland. I don't know about the Windsor stuff, not so much, but the Cleveland, yes.
Definitely.
They say 20 to 25 horse from that, or 18 to 20 or something.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
At least.
No doubt. And they ran big tubes, man. Those pro stock Clevelands are running 2 1/4-inch headers, primaries, about 30 inches long. They're not running 1 7/8 like I run. They're running 2 1/4, 2 1/8. Those are big tubes, man. But they're going at 9,500 RPM, 10,000.
Okay, so Unfinished Project's got an interesting question over here. He asks, have you ever tried swapping the pistons in your engine?
No.
I think he means reversing it for the pin offset.
I've heard that before, and I've never done that. I've heard about it, and tell you the truth, I'm just not that technical. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to monkey around with stuff. I just want it to go fast and have good oil pressure. But yeah, I've heard a lot of that kind of stuff, little changes like that, change the cam timing, the firing order. You can change that to the cylinder so they fire more equal. But nope, I've never done it, but I've heard about that kind of stuff.
I've done it. I've done it on a 318 Chrysler. It works. Direct connection always said it reduced friction. On paper, it looks like it would reduce friction. I don't know how much it would show on a dyno. It probably would have more to do with crashing the engine into the load, because there are things that would never show on a dyno, like an accelerator pump.
Right.
Like how would an accelerator pump show on a dyno? It'll have a whole lot to do with how your car accelerates, putting the load on it, but it would never show on a dyno because you already have full load on there when you make the pull. So I don't know, but I know that I've never had any ill effects from doing it.
One thing I can tell you that you might be interested in is the connecting rods by Molnar Technologies. Tom Molnar. He makes the Molnar crank rods, a lot of stuff. But he has a correct Ford offset connecting rod for stroker motors, Cleveland's, probably Windsor's too. But they used to use a Chevy 6-inch rod for some of their stroker kits. But there's a different offset between a Chevy rod and this Ford rod.
When you say offset, what offset are you referring to?
We're talking about the relationship between the end of the connecting rod and the piston pin inside the piston, centered on the piston pin, not off to the side. By centering that in that area, he said that they've seen pickup of 18 to 30 horsepower just by changing the rods. Now, I don't know.
Wow.
You can call them and ask them, but that's pretty phenomenal.
That's pretty amazing. Sometimes there is just one little thing that becomes a bottleneck, and we just got to find it. But then again, sometimes a guy will have an 800 horsepower engine, and when he finds 20 horsepower, look what a small percentage that is of the total.
Tell me about it.
I mean, we could get the same percentage with a K&M filter as he got to find 20, but it's because his engine is so powerful already.
Well, that thing right back there with the head off it, I just got the head back from BS, so hopefully I can get that back on and get it to the dyno. That was making 752 at 7,600.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a 409 now, and the heads have been done, intake, and I put those rods in it, offset rods. So we'll see how much power it picks up.
I looked at your torque numbers. What'd you have, 571, 572?
I think 571.
Yeah, see, so you're making a little better than 1.4 pound-feet of torque per cube. That's a good number. That's an engine that's working well and efficient, and things are matched well. A good cam. Engines don't make that when they're a poor combination. So I'm going to be excited to see what you get from that.
So am I. That's like 1.84 horsepower per cube, I think it comes out to.
Right.
Not bad for this old junk.
Oh, no. I'll take that all day.
Oh, hell
Howdy,
yeah.
Bad Tree Productions. Thanks for joining us. Aaron Hinckley, just here to support. Well, we love to have you. Yeah, Andy's right. Loud Burns has a collection of goodies. I mean, I have a DeSoto Hemi that I'm getting an ear welded on. And Loud Burns, he has one. He sent me a picture of it. He has all kinds of cool stuff.
I want to give out a shout out to John Elliott. He's been on here. I'll tell you a funny story quick. But
Sure.
He's one of my subscribers, and he lives in a small town in Pennsylvania, I think it is. But all of his neighbors come to his porch every night to watch our videos. You know, mine, yours, Andy. Yep, right there. So they're all there on his porch. They all sit around, and some of them are probably drinking beer, right, guys? Probably 10 guys there looking around watching the computer screen, you know, because they don't have cable, I guess, and they're getting it wireless. I don't know, but it's cool to have them on there. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you know what? I'm thrilled to have all of these guys on here. That's what this is about. It's a great hangout. So BAL asks a question. This is all you and Andy here. Drag Race Cleveland guys adapting cylinder oil squirters like NASCAR did. I'm not sure what he means.
I think I know that for the NASCAR, they had valve cover oilers that would oil the rocker arms and the springs.
Okay, yeah.
So they had those go. Actually, there's a pair sitting up there. But yeah, they have a rod going through and it oils that. Now, they also have NASCAR have oilers to I want to say the cam bearings maybe. I can see them now mounted in there like little tubes brazed in or welded in, oiling something. I just saw it before, but no, I've never done anything like that on Cleveland.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it plumbed on a big block Chrysler.
Okay.
I mean, will it make your valve train run cooler? Will it make this valve spring actually cooler? Yeah, it will. Will it also add weight to it? Yeah, it does. So what all that is worth, I don't know. It's a little too exotic for me.
Well, the other thing with the Cleveland is, I mean, the Cleveland has its hindrance is the oil system itself. It's not a priority oiling system. You know what I mean? It doesn't oil the mains first. So that's a hindrance right there.
Yeah.
Good up to about 6,500. After that, you're starting to tax it, and you better start doing something.
Now, isn't that what an FE does?
What's that? How they oil?
Like a 390, 427?
Some of them they oil through the center, you know, and the side oiler ran down the left side of the galley, but I'm not an oil system on FE.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I know that's a legendary problem they have, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, like the big block Ford also has a Cleveland type oiling system, and they have the same issues. So I've heard. I mean, I've never had a big block Ford, but
well, you know, they all have their things. There's no engine that doesn't have their things. You know, I guess I'm spoiled. I look at the stud mounted rocker gear on like a small block Chevy or an LS, and it scares me. It just makes me tremble to look at. But you know, then there are people that you know, every engine's got its thing. It might be oiling, it might be valve train, something. I mean, I don't think you can have everything just right, but we try.
Well, Mopars are all shaft rockers, right? They're like a FE. They have shaft rocker system, whereas Cleveland's got the pedestal.
Well, well, now, have you ever heard of the ball stud Hemi? Did you ever hear that?
Yes, I have heard of it.
So there were only a couple of them that made it out of the factory, and there's only one known to exist today. What's that idiot's name? John Aruza. He decided to hot rod it up and take it and bore it out and put Boss 429 pistons in it and change a camshaft and repaint it and just take this museum piece, the only one in the world, and make it like every other engine.
Okay.
But what was interesting about that engine is they were going to streamline the big block production, and instead of having a low deck and a high deck big block, they were going to go to this one. And it would be either 400 or 444 cubic inches, depending which crank you got. And it would have stud-mounted rockers like a big block Chevy.
Okay.
Now, the thing never got far enough into development or production, but man, I think that would have been so interesting if Chrysler had done that. Because you know what that does. It's going to give them a canted valve. And I just think those engines just would have been amazing if they had made it into production.
Wow.
But then what Chrysler did is they just scrapped the whole big block program. So Chrysler didn't have a big block after 78.
That put them down.
This is where some guy is going to come in the comments. Oh, no, they put them in motorhomes up in like 1980. I know. But I mean, in general, 78 was the last, whereas Ford and Chevy had their big blocks much longer.
Sure they did. Ford
but
did.
that would have been neat if Chrysler had done that, because it would have cut the production costs down, and I think they would have stayed with it, into the 80s and 90s and run this basically like a big block Chevy with the durability features of the Chrysler. So anyway, just wonder if you'd seen it.
Yeah, I've only seen some write-up on it. I can see the rocker arms or something like that in my head.
Yeah.
For some reason.
The canted valves are definitely the thing I'm most jealous of that Ford guys have. I love the Cleveland for that.
They just flow, man. They flow. I'm telling you, it's crazy. The ports are too big to begin with. That's why they try to fill them to increase the velocity. But back in the pro stock days, some filled and some didn't. But the ones that didn't fill, those are like Glidden dyno. They're running $10,000.
Right.
Got the heavy valve train in there. Those valves are, 219 intakes, 171 exhaust. And it's a lot of iron to be throwing around. But they had titanium. The good guys that can afford it, they would switch to titanium. So,
how many runs do you think they were getting out of a valve spring?
I don't know. I bet you they probably only got, 3 or 4 runs in their change.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Anthony said was kind of the ball peen, kind of like a big block Chevy. If you mean the ball stud Hemi, yes, it was a lot like a big block Chevy. Yep. And name looks like Iconio, but I know it's not. Iacovino.
Oh yeah.
But no, I've always thought that was interesting, the way they fill those, Cleveland, the 4V heads. They fill them to kill the dead spot at the bottom.
Right.
But I thought that was interesting in pro stock. As tight as they turned those engines, they still filled those ports.
Sure they did.
Which tells me
how much volume you don't need. You know what I mean?
Well, it tells me on the street engines that ran them, how are you ever getting any velocity and energy in those ports?
Well, that's the problem. People say that they're dogs because they're not. You can't run them with a 325 gear. You're not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
You need something like a 389 at least. Some stall in that converter. The cam's got to be in at 106, not some factory 110 stuff.
Yeah, and that's something I see. I think that kills a lot of street cars. People getting too much lobe separation. They'll get like a 110, 112, even a 114, and I tightening that up makes a difference.
If you got heads that are flowing 430 CFM, you might need a 114 or something. But if your heads aren't flowing that, you don't need that big, separation. I don't know.
Whose head's flowing that? That's crazy.
Those Higgins heads flow that. They flow like 430. Which are a Cleveland head from Australia.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I would love to see some of the stuff they have in Australia. I've heard a lot about it, and who knows, maybe I'll do that before I die, but I'd love to go over there. Mike Cantrell says the only thing I've ever heard about Cleveland is easy to screw up the heads, but when they're done right, look out. Okay. So what do you have to look for when you do Cleveland heads? Like, what are the pitfalls that an amateur builder wouldn't know about?
Geez, that's a tough question. I don't really know that much about rebuilding the heads. I've only done a couple sets of heads myself on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Aluminum heads. I've never done the Cleveland stuff other than putting springs on them, that kind of stuff. Nothing really, never ported any of them. Never did any modifications to them. I ran them. I paid to have it done, or I ran them the way they were.
Yeah, the porting would be the thing I would think would be. You'd have to know, where it's thin and whatnot.
Exactly. They do have some real thin water jackets in the upper aspects of them, but you don't need to port a Cleveland head really. Unless you're gonna, it depends on what you want your goal to be. You know what I mean? I think the biggest screw up you get is putting, the wrong cam in there for what you want to do.
It's all a balanced package and everything. Okay, since Dan E. Boyd said he's here for one of my lives, I'm going to replay this just for him. Hey, and it looks like Tony's here too. All right, so we're gonna play this, and you get to narrate this clip for our new viewers again. Tell us about this wild ride.
Okay. Here's Tim Halstead at the line. He's ready to roll. He's got his new motor. He almost hits the wall.
And you didn't hit the wall in any of that?
No, man.
That's amazing. I thought you munched that wall, but I couldn't quite tell. I didn't see anything come off of it.
No. It did bend the rear leaf spring. The right rear leaf spring got bent a little bit.
Oh, you did. You did bend the spring.
Oh yeah. The car was like this. You know? Crazy.
So I popped Tony's comment up on there.
Uncle Tony.
Yeah, Tony stopped by to say hi. Could be Kathy, but I think it's Tony. But I'll tell you this. So just to let you guys know that weren't here earlier, I played that clip when we first went live. And he actually, most people put it on the back bumper. He put it on the fuel pump.
Yeah.
How many people have drug a fuel pump, bent a leaf spring, kept it off the wall? I'm not going to ask what you did to your fire suit, but that looks like an incredible ride.
Oh, yeah. So when I'm driving back, the thing's limping back there. The fuel's pouring out of the thing, dripping. And I was like at the track trying to fix a fuel leak like that. I was like, this thing was smashed. It was done.
Yeah. Wild Rose Garage said she hooked. She sure did. So what size of tire do you run on that?
10.5, 30-inch.
Yeah, 10.5. Okay.
I mean, the secret, if you want wheel stands and you want a good 60-foot time, get a set of who's your drag radials. A drag radial slick will pick you up a 10th on the 60-foot. That's 2 on the big end. Okay? So they're worth the money, but they don't last long. You might get 60 runs out of them, but they're a stiff wall tire for a good trans brake car. But they make a difference compared to a bias ply slick.
I'm hearing a lot of people say that. And I remember when the drag radials first came out, and they were so hit and miss, and just like everything else, it's like everything else. Now they have really come around. And Andy runs them on his truck, and that's probably what I'm going to wind up running on the Dart Sport. It just seems like an ideal fit for it. Bob Ganshaw's asking, just to verify, that is Tony. And Wild Rose Garage, I'll give him a shout out. He is a great budget builder, really smart guy, but he likes to work with budget stuff. And he's up in Canada, and he's building a G-body Olds. And it's kind of a sleeper, really cool little build. It's worth checking out his channel. He's one of those little hidden gem channels that not everybody knows about.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, Wild Rose Garage. He's got a lot of good stuff going on. Bob Ganshaw's asking, is that car a stick?
No.
You leave on the brake, right?
Yeah, it's a C4 tranny I build myself. And I leave on the trans brake is performance automatic from like 1998. The converter is from 1998.
What kind of converter do you have?
ATI. 8-inch.
ATI?
Yeah. It's supposed to be 5,000, but it flashes about, when it's hooking good, about 58 to 59. And that's about a 132, 60 foot. It's been a best of 127.
Oh, nice. What track was that on?
Norwalk.
Okay.
Summit.
Just put this up. VRM's checking in on his commute home from work.
What's up, VRM?
I hope you're just listening and you're not watching this on a screen on your dash, but I hope it's as good a listen as it would be to watch. Although I don't have to worry anything to look at necessarily, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. Tony says he's learning about radials, and compared to bias, they're brutal. And yeah, I probably would have said no way about 8 or 10 years ago, but no, they've really got it together.
They're gonna show you the weak spot in your suspension and where you got to get control, and it's all gonna come down to the shocks. The shocks is what's gonna get you the best 60-foot time. I know he doesn't want to go to Caltrax or go to a monoleaf type spring, but he would pick up a lot of weight. I bet he would take, if you went to Caltrax, a monoleaf spring on that bottle rocket, I guarantee you would pick up 3/10 off the 60-foot.
So I love the diversity we have in the YouTube car community. I just love it. Because if everybody was doing the same thing, we would have NASCAR and nobody would watch. Just like NASCAR, nobody watches. So I like to see how much I can do with that junkyard part that most people would throw away. To me, I love that challenge. I like a car that I can raise the hood on and make a guy embarrassed to death that I beat him with that. That is where it's at. Okay. If I pop the hood and let's say there's a 572 Chevy crate motor, makes 720 horsepower. I spent $15,000 on it. Everybody knows what I have, where it came from, what it should be expected to run, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that's just really boring. Now I like good parts, and if you get to a plateau where you just like, you know what, I'm right on the edge of the sixes, or I'm right on the edge of the, the whatever, the 650s, or I'm right on the edge of the sevens, and you say, I know this is holding me back, and you say, now I want to go faster, sure. But I think people that just, they rank things as better. I say better is relative. It's like that car, the Tooth Jerker, that 69 Dart. He's got a 4-second leaf sprung car. And would the car be a whole lot faster, with like a 4-link? Of course.
Sure.
But I just like that he's maximizing what he can do with a system that we know doesn't do that. So I just think that's cool.
And I like small tires. I mean, it's only a 10.5 tire. That's what I want to do, is see how fast I can go on that 10.5 tire with my combination,
Of course.
I like that. I don't want a tub car. I do want a tub car, but not my Cougar. It's just, I want it to stay that way, and when the time goes, it's gone or whatever. But I enjoy that.
And quick shout out to my aunt. She's watching. That's how cool is that? I have a very cool aunt. I think that's cool. Tony,
shout out to my wife and kids if they're watching. I don't know if they're watching because they give me a hug and kiss, because I know we get talking and it's hard to get off this thing after a certain amount of time. But I love you, Andrea, Izzy, and Elena. So stay tuned. I'll be in a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why we do this, right?
Oh, it's great.
That's what life is for, right?
It's like going to a bar or coming to someone's garage and bench racing, or just starting a BS about whatever, with no worries. Everyone's comfortable, do what they want to do, and the information just starts flowing. I like that.
So Tony said running those tires has shown him the weak spot and everything. It kind of reminds me of something. So he and I, we've talked about this on lives and things like that. We're discussing the idea of doing a podcast, and Kathy and I, because Kathy's very creative. Okay, she paints and things like that. Okay. She and I are discussing the idea of a logo for this podcast. So I just sit down with a piece of paper and start sketching. And I'll tell you, I think it's just over there, but I think I can get to it. But I just start sketching up this logo, and I start drawing these parts in the foreground with like a sunrise over them. And every part I drew down in the foreground was something that Bottle Rocket has broken on its quest for glory. Because I just kept thinking, broke this, and it's very subtle. Nobody would even know what it is if I didn't tell them. It's just kind of the outline, because that car has broken stuff that should never have broken. I mean, have you ever broken a lower control arm bushing on the drag strip?
Yeah.
I mean, so he has been through the ringer with that car, but yeah, I mean, it's that car has broken stuff that should never break.
I'll tell you what happens, and I'm going to do a whole video on wheel stands, but I'll just give you a little insight. Doing wheel stands it beats a car up. I've been doing it for a long time. And it comes to the point where I would come down, and one time, like you said, the control arm bushing got yanked right out of the bottom of the lower control arm. Yeah. Another time, they have an eccentric for the alignment for the camber for the tires.
Right.
That got pulled out of there, yanked out of there from the force. So it does beat on stuff. But yeah, I've been there.
Well, I notice you run a huge amount of negative camber. Is that just because that's where it's going to wind up anyway?
Well, you know what? Here's a funny thing. I don't like the tires looking kind of crooked when you do a wheel stand, and that's how they are on a Ford or a Cougar, unless you compensate for it. So the car's at the chassis shop now, and I had thought I had a good alignment. I paid for a good alignment, and he said, that thing is so bad, you wait till you drive this thing. Because it's like driving a tank trying to steer. It's manual steering. Yeah. You're in the pits driving, and, but.
Dan says, I'm assuming he's talking about NASCAR, 43 of the same cars driven by the same guy. Man, is that not the truth?
Same haircut. Yep.
They're jockey drivers, common template, and they wonder why people don't watch. Tony says, I agree with the mono or cow tracks, but he wants to go as fast as he can with stock low performance parts. High five for that.
Yeah,
I
now I
like the
see where he's
Caltrax.
going.
Yeah, if I was going to run anything, if I was going to do anything to the back, it would be Caltrax. But I want to see what super stock springs and where we can get with that.
Now, are you talking about Bottle Rocket or are you talking about your car?
I'm talking about mine, but you know, it's a 73
What do you have
Dart
now?
Sport.
I got to remember. Tell me what it is.
So 73 Dart Sport is what I'm working on now.
Got it. Okay, I got it.
And this whole adventure of having to work on the old house is really taken away from that. But I'm telling you, once I have that under wraps, I'm going to get back on the Dart Sport. And I'm trying to do a pretty good restoration. I'm getting all the brakes and steering and everything really crisp again.
Yep.
And something else I'm working on, I can't announce it just yet till we have firm plans, but I'm going to be doing, it looks like another collaboration with that car in the spring or summer 2022. So you guys will definitely want to see that. If you like the wild old pro stock 70s stuff, you're going to want to see that.
Nice.
Yeah, wheelies are cool, but landing is the money shot. Well,
you know what? It's fine. If you get to about 4 feet, you're fine. Once you get past 4 feet, that's when you start getting out of control and breaking things. But up to 4 feet, no problem. Make sure everything's tight and have fun. You know.
Now, have you? So okay. So I've never ridden anything that was, you know, carrying the front end like that. And your car is obviously just wild. I mean, I looked like in that video clip you carried the front tires way over the 60 foot.
Oh yeah,
you stripped the 60s to rear tires. So have you ever had a moment where you said, "Ooh, I shouldn't have let out and crashed down," or "Yeah, I should have stayed in it," or how does that work when you're driving and that front end is up like that?
Well, it was like the run before that. Before I smashed another oil pan. The same thing. You know what I mean? You don't. This is what John Patterson told me. And if you're watching this, John, he always told me, just nail it and just keep pulling the gears. If it starts to get too high, just pull the next gear. You know, bring it back down. So I never let up. I always had it in my head, never let up. I don't care if I'm going to crash. I'm not letting up. And that's how I always drove. And once you get up there, you can't see anything. I'm trying to see the side of the track, and I'm going like this backward. All I see is the sky. And I'm like, here it goes. I said, I just kept going, man. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You just make sure your belts are tight when you leave the line, get everything tight, and just go. But yeah, but when it doesn't do that, it's just like Joe Grippo. I don't know if you know him on Facebook. He's got a 70 Mustang that's a wheel stand.
I know that name. Okay, that's where I know it. Yeah, it's a Mustang?
70, yeah. With blue
did he have a Maverick?
No, that's Stephen Moore. He has a Maverick.
Okay. That Grippo, I think I've actually seen some of his videos, yeah.
But I helped him with his Caltrax, gave him some advice, what works for me. You know, I make these videos of what works for me. It might not work for you. You know, Aaron Hinckley, you might not like that. Well, then don't use it. I can only give you the experience I have. And that's what I try to give back. You know, what helps and works for me. So you're not spending that money on that cam that's not going to make any difference in your car.
I agree. That's how we grow together. We share these things that work. So Wild Rose here says, I've seen a lot of cars with fancy motors that were nothing special because people spend huge money on parts they don't know what to do and their cars run like junk. I can tell you, I've seen an awful lot of cars that people wanted to spin their way to the top, and I can just look at that car run and say, my gosh, that car ought to be at least a second quicker. I mean, I can smell the mixture is just completely wrong. Yep. I can hear it. I know the timing's not where it should be. Yeah, you just know. I'm like, I just suspect they just picked completely the wrong cam converter, and they spent a lot of money and they didn't get the results, and that's sad. So
I tell you, it's a puzzle. You got to have a goal. Once you get a goal, then you just put your mind to it and put the parts along the sides that are going to get you to that goal.
Yeah,
you're not going to buy $200 valve springs, you know, for a $10,000 motor. You know what I mean? You're going to buy some good parts. So save up and buy good stuff that's going to last where it matters. Valve springs, valve train, you know. Doesn't know what connecting rod is in there. It'd be nice to have a nice forged steel rod, but if you got a cast rod or whatever, hey, clean it up, put new bolts in it, and go, you know.
So apparently, like the whole crew's watching me. My mom is in the house. Check that out.
What's up, Mom?
Wild Rose Garage says, my Dart is awesome. It was a drag car. It was fairly new. Yeah, that car, the last inspection sticker on it is 1982. And it only has about 70,000 miles on it. So it's been a drag car practically its whole life.
Nice.
Yeah, he says money with no knowledge. Yeah, that's a plague. That is a plague. And so that real quick, there is a racer that everybody's heard of. Okay. Everybody's heard of him. He is in the top touring professional series, and he grew up right here in this town, right where I'm sitting. And I can tell you stories about the way he got his race program to where it was that would just make you cringe. But in the end, if you have enough money to get people who know what they're doing, you can get championships. So anyway, Tony says, let me tell you the big issue. Most guys follow a bracket race mentality when building a car to go fast. Tell me what that means, Tony. What do you mean exactly by the bracket race mentality? Is it consistency or just buying new parts, or what exactly does that mean?
I'll tell you when I see that,
You already got it.
That's not me. I don't build for a bracket race. I got a goal of an ET. I want to go this fast. I don't care about the bracket race, and I did all that stuff. So mine's more goal oriented. So I build goal oriented.
Well, I mean, you know, the difference between a dream and a goal is a time frame and an action plan.
There it is.
So you have a dream, but then you make a goal to do it, to go out and do it. But Tony says, yeah, what I mean by that is they build with oversized tires, overbuilt suspension. Right. He's exactly right. He is exactly right. I watch guys go out there with cars that literally can barely run in the sevens in the 8th mile, and they have steamroller slicks on the back, like 33-inch slicks on the back. And I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Now, if you're going to build a bad race car and that's your theme and you want a big tire car and you start that way, I can see that. Is, you know, him to this step. But I've been there. I've seen those cars running 1250s in there, you know, at Pro Street. It doesn't go anywhere. They look nice, but.
Well, and two, this is America. So if you want to overbuild a car, you should have the freedom to do that. I think that's great. I just don't like it when people have different ideas of what they think that's doing for them. If I were to walk up to that guy and he said, yep, I just want a car with the widest tires I can possibly fit around the suspension, and I want it to look really cool, and I want it to thump as loud as it can with no vacuum, great. That's great. Those are his goals. Go for it. But I don't want him to say, yeah, this car is going to go 4 seconds in the 8th, and this is my ticket. So
I like to make a pass with a big block Chevy and a Camaro, okay, all tubbed. There was one at National Trail. That guy, I love that car. The car was bad. It was fast. It ran like 1020s, you know? And I'd go up there and I'd freaking race him in my old Cougar with a 40-year-old paint job with rust coming off the back, and, you know, and I'd run a freaking 1005 on him, you know? And I love that. And they'd come by, what is that thing? Big block? How much spray? I just smile.
There is, on my channel, we did a virtual car show. And one of the submissions was it was either a 67, 8, or 9 Cougar, but one of our regulars here, Buff Del Campo, owned it. He had I believe it was a small block Chevy with a tunnel ram and 2 4s and a Cougar. I just thought that was wild. You can see it in the stream show.
Okay.
Dallas here, Dallas Brown in the house.
What's up, Dallas?
He's identifying the goal and purpose before buying a part or turning a wrench is the right way to do any build. I agree. So that Dart Sport I have, it was a drag car. It raced in the 80s. It has a lot of very 80s things. I'm going to make a lot of concessions for how quick the car can ultimately go because I want to keep that authenticity. So yes, I'm going to keep the heavy Krager SSs. I'm probably going to have more tire on it than it needs because that's what it ran. So there's certain things like that, but it's because part of my goal is keeping that stuff. So you get, but I'm very realistic about it. And I just thought that's all anybody should do is just be realistic and honest.
But the thing that I can tell you, and like you too, all this stuff that I do it myself. I didn't pay anybody to do this. I mean, some of it I did, headers and the roll cage, but I want to learn to do that stuff. All the mechanical stuff I can do. But when you go to the track, that car that you have, you put your sweat, your blood, your hard work into it. That's what makes it worthwhile. Not going and paying someone to buy a hot rod that runs, you know, whatever 850s. I don't want that. I want something that I built.
I think Tony said something to the effect of something like, it doesn't count until I've bled on it.
Yeah.
Bled on, and there's some truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. Dan likes the Krager SS. Yeah, I like it. That's what the car had. They're a little heavy, and I'm not crazy about the Unilug, but I'm taking steps to make that safe and work right. I'm actually going to be the guy who does it. There's always got to be one guy who makes the part number. There's a company in Charlotte who's making me a set of custom wheel studs for that car so that you can get a really, really correct half-inch wheel stud for a Chrysler that actually fits the hub and all of that stuff and fits a Krager SS properly. And so I did all the measuring, all the specking, all of that stuff, the blueprint. So now when I get mine done, there's going to be a part number for it. So anybody that wants to run Krager SSs with a proper, NHRA, IHRA, AHRA approved length of wheel stud will have a part number to buy instead of a universal. So I'll be the pioneer that does all that.
I just put in 5/8 studs just because I was bending the half-inch after probably 15 or 16 years of wheel stands and beating on it. The axles, the studs were bent. So I switched to 5/8.
You would bend a stud?
The studs were all tweaked by about probably 0.004 of an inch. I made a video on it. It's on my channel.
I saw that, and I haven't seen that yet, but I saw the video where you were putting them in.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about this. So what would it rock them in the hub or in the axle, or would it actually bend them?
It actually bent them, tweaked them. Wow. They were bent. So what would happen is my wheels would loosen up every so often. I would hear this squeaking in the back. I'd check them and they'd be loosening up. So that's when I said this is a safety issue, and I went to 5/8. But
so the guy I told you about died here a few years ago. Campaigned to Big Block Ford.
Yep.
I got to help with his car a little bit. He had the same problem back before 5/8 drive studs were a thing.
Okay.
And he had Summers Brothers axles in a 9-inch housing, and that tells you right there how old this build is, right?
Yeah, I remember Summers.
So he had 4.5-inch holes in both his axle and 4 3/4 in the axle. He had 4.5 and 4 3/4 in the wheels. So he just drilled the 4 3/4 in his disc brake hats, and he ran 10 studs. And that was his solution. So I said, it was like changing wheels on a 1-ton truck. It was a pain. And it was heavy, but it solved the problem, because what his was doing, his was breaking a stud. And you change a stud, and then it would break the next one in the series. And then it would break the next one in the series. And he said, before this thing, something bad happens, I need to deal with this. So he put 10 in on both patterns. And it was wild. It was just different.
Yeah, I've never seen that. Nice.
The car's still around. His son has it, but it's covered in dust, and who knows? Maybe it'll get campaigned again. The bad thing is, though, is I'm one of the only guys alive that even knows some of the weird stuff about that car. So you probably couldn't campaign it without at least asking me, hey, what does this do? Tony says, 2 mentalities at work. Guys who do this stuff for their ego, and they head down a bottomless pit of spending and frustration. That is the truth. That is the truth. I see them at the track all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they go down, they make good runs, and they're disappointed because, they couldn't buy their way to the number they wanted. There's no fun in that. Yeah, Dallas Brown in the house. Yes, Andy's here sporadically. I think he's watching. Wild Rose Garage says you don't know what works best until you break it.
That's it, man.
Then right? Dallas says we are all here for this learning. I don't know what you're learning today, but we're having a lot of fun.
You know what? You learn the experience that we have, what we've done and the pitfalls that we've experienced, so we can help them avoid that. You know what I mean? And get the most bang for your buck, or what your goal is with your car. And there's so many ways to look at it, whether, like I did a video on oil pans, pro stock oil pans, oil control, the windage aspect, the cooling, durability, all little things make a difference.
Yeah. It's always funny if we could go back and tell, teenage us things We're just a book of things we wish we could tell us, right?
Yeah.
But if we could do that, think of all the stuff we'd have missed out on and probably would never have learned, right? And one thing that kind of reminds me of that a little, I'm really enjoying this on Uncle Tony's Garage, the Junkyard Jet, that build. Yeah. I'm loving that build because more than I thought I would. I mean, I generally enjoy, most all that content because, we're always kind of have the same things in mind with it. But it's so much fun seeing those guys who were younger and don't have some of the same biases and experiences that we do, because it makes them think about their build differently. And it's a lot of fun. I'm just curious to see what they'll do. And I'm loving all their success that they're having, but I'm kind of seeing, how they overcome little failures along the way, or, oh, that didn't work out. Maybe we'll do this. I'm really hoping we get to see them really progress with that thing. And for those of you on here that aren't familiar with the Junkyard Jet build, two young fellas are building is it a 71 Valiant on Uncle Tony's Garage? And Tony gave them the car, and a bunch of people, including Jim Bennett, donated a bunch of parts, and they are going at it, and they're building their first project car together, these two guys. And it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's a journey. So I'm curious to see what they're doing. If you haven't seen that yet, you should check it out. Wild Rose Garage said, I used to do some serious rigging as a teenager. Come on, man. You do some serious rigging now. We all do, and we think we can get away with it. Wild Rose Garage did something I had never seen before, and I thought it was really cool.
What's that?
He has coil springs on the back of his G-body O's.
Okay.
He has a football in the right rear coil spring. That's his airbag. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant.
And it probably works just as good as an airbag you put air into, Oh,
I'm sure it does.
You
it probably doesn't last as long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it fits in there. It's conical, so it fits in there a lot better.
So what kind of things do you have coming up? I mean, I know you're building that Cleveland that's on the stand back there. Hey, thank you, Fubar. Thanks for posting that link. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, that's such a fun build. Okay. Such a fun build. So I see that Cleveland you got on the stand.
Yeah.
You got some goals in the short term. Like, what are you planning between now and winter that we might see on your channel?
Well, like I said, the car's in the chassis shop. It's not going to get done until spring. The guy got some other jobs that he's going to do that he can make money on that aren't automotive related. They're more of a, some other issue that he welds. So he's going to make me some dyno headers, 2-inch dyno headers.
Cool.
Instead of the ones that are going to be made for my car, he said he would make them up for free just so I can dyno this motor. So I just got to get the flanges. I just got to put that head together. I'll probably have that head together probably tomorrow, put it back on, and then make sure the carburetors are ready, and then schedule a dyno time, and he's got to make the header. So probably within the next few weeks. All I care about is dyno in that thing. I've been playing with this thing for 3 years almost. I'm done. I just want to be done with it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I don't want to see it anymore. I want it to run, make a 950, and then be done.
See you, Tony. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate you.
See you, Tony. But so that goal, that's one goal there. The other one is I've got a 354 Cleveland. I want my kids and wife to start tearing it down to get ready to put a tunnel ram on it. The carbs are already sent to DC Carbs in Texas, David Cook. So I sent 4 Dominators there. He's going to do those. And I want to do, after this dyno, I want to dyno this 354 Cleveland. We already know it makes 616 horse. Let's see what it makes with a tunnel ram and 2 4s.
I like that approach because there's a lot of guys that want to make the home run on their first dyno, but I like what you're doing. I like what Andy Wood is doing.
Yeah.
So Andy is going to make, I'm sure, I think he's going to breeze his goal, 750 horsepower on that mixed up Boss. He's going to do it.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
But he's doing it without doing anything, more to the parts. The parts are pretty much out of the box, pretty close. So he's truly showing what somebody that has a little bit of budget to get some nice parts can do out of the box. And then they're going to build it and make some crazy horsepower. I mean, that thing, it'll make 1,000 horsepower if they really get into those heads, really explore the compression and cam and such. So I'm excited to see what they do. But there's nothing wrong with doing, a build that's close to out of the box first. And so you're doing yours in stages too.
Exactly. I want to see what horsepower that tunnel ram adds. Then I want to put on the high port heads, the pro stock heads, dyno it again and see what those heads add. You know what I mean? See what horsepower differences between those two configurations. So that's what I'm trying to do anyways.
I'm tempted to tell people of the experiment I want to do with a stock engine while we're here, but I can't do it. It's got to be a surprise. Somebody will leak it. But
when I got that aluminum DragBoss Cleveland block that I got from Tim Meyer, so it's one that you can go big bore, like almost 4,200 on. So it's going to be a 427, 125 bore, all aluminum Cleveland block. The heads are back there. Those are already almost all done by Darren Morgan, and I'm going to have it sent to BS. I'm going to have them put it together because I don't think I got enough brain power or smarts, so to speak, to put this aluminum Cleveland together. It's all new block. It's all new. I'm not taking that responsibility. You know what I mean? It's my last hurrah. I want it done right. And my goal is 850 horsepower with that. So these are all the things. I got 5 motors I want to build for my bucket list, and then I'm done, like I said.
Well, you never know, but I'll tell you what, it's great how much you've got on deck. And things can change, but you've got goals, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. Excited to see it all happen.
I want to share it with people.
I want to see that Cougar run in person.
You come on down. I'll bring it wherever, man, when the time comes. There's a couple people out west that want to meet. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be great. You know what? Actually, Tony and Andy and I have been talking about track rental in Dallas. We would love to put a track rental together and have a private day of race. And so if you want in on that, we would love to get you in on it. Be a lot of fun.
That would be fun, I'll tell you. And I would do it, I'm not sure. You guys are in what? He's in Nashville?
He's in Nashville. I don't know where we would wind up doing it. But
where are you living now?
I live in southwestern Virginia. I live in Christiansburg, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm west of Roanoke.
20 minutes from my house is one of the best tracks in the nation. Norwalk, man. Summit.
Yeah.
Freaking top quality. I love it.
Well, remember this, though. The stands are never empty when you have YouTube. If we were to do a live stream from a track with all of our channels, oh, my gosh, we would have the stands full, effectively.
You really would.
Wild Rose Garage says, questions on tunnel ram. He has an Offenhauser tunnel ram on a 302 Mexican block. That's interesting. Okay. He went 2.4s because the runners, the intake, don't line up with the carb. That's some wild stuff there. I hope you have a video of that on your channel. Yeah, Andy's all in. Oh, yeah. Norwalk's amazing. I've never been to Norwalk. I've never been anywhere in Ohio but Cincinnati.
Okay.
I went to Cincinnati once to visit a relative, and it's the only time I've ever been to the state of Ohio in my entire life. I'm kind of scared of the North. I need to take Andy, to be like my security.
Well, within 2.5 hours, I have Norwalk, Dragway 42, National Trail. There's a couple other ones. So there's like 5 tracks within 2 to 3 hour radius.
Okay. Dan says the Mexican small block Ford is heavier and stronger. Well, I don't know anything about that. So what is it? Is it just because they have more beef in the castings, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I don't know much about them either. Obviously, they were poured in Mexico, but they do have beefier mains or at least, thicker type bulkheads. That's all I really know about them. Maybe thicker cylinders, but I don't know much about the Mexican blocks.
What is this right here? Tim, the invite for a tour of the Shelby shop in Vegas is still open.
Hey, Anthony, I told my wife about it because she likes to go to Vegas. So I would love to come there with our family and spend a few days. And I would hook you. I would definitely show up.
Cool.
Thank you. In fact, watch this. I have to write stuff down. I don't know about you, John, but I have a bunch of notebooks. I have to write notes constantly.
Just out of view of this camera is a whiteboard with stuff all over it.
Okay. So, yes. I have Covino. Vegas.
Every time I see Anthony, I'm sorry. Every time I see your name, I think Frank Iaconio. There could be worse people to be confused with.
Early Iacocca.
Yeah, now, thanks. Now I'm going to think that. I'm going to think of the K car now when I see him.
Edgewater, yeah, that's near Cincinnati. So there's a lot of tracks in Ohio. That's why I moved here, to tell you the truth. One of the reasons.
Andy said I've split Mexican blocks too. Andy breaks stuff that you didn't know could break. He is serious. Mike Collins is scared of Northern Virginia. So am I. I went to a Walmart in Alexandria a few years ago. I got my Northern Virginia fixed for the rest of my life. He says it's open for all of you guys. Do not be surprised if I take you up on that, because I've been to Vegas a few times, and I am not into any of the stuff Vegas is known for, but I would love to do that. Some say, the comments jump on StreamYard. Sorry, guys. Some say the Mexican blocks have a higher nickel content. Yeah. They may. They may. He believes it's a better block, but don't know. You know what, Andy? You know what? This would be a good project for all of us, for Tim and for Andy and I. Let's get a hold of one of those Mexican 302 blocks and find out. Let's see what has one, I think. Yeah, let's get one and figure out what's going on with it. This speculation needs to end.
Now I'll tell you, somebody offered me it's a Chevy motor, a small block Chevy motor out of a Corvette. Chris Puffnick is the guy's name. But he offered me through Messenger, he wants me to take this block. It was one that was at the machine shop where my buddy, where he died. It's a long story. You can watch my videos. But he offered me this Chevy 350, and I'm going to take him up on it. I've never built a Chevy. But,
cool.
Let me look at this thing. Who knows what we can do with it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I kind of like the Chevy 350. I know people would probably be aghast when I say that, but I like the exhaust side of it. Well-engineered engine, short rod. I like them. I think they're cool.
I like all engines, all cars. I have nothing. I just like Ford better. That's what I like, and that's what I like to get into.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Car, AMC, I like them. They're all good.
Okay, so that begs the question.
Yeah.
So Andy has told us what his is. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure Mopar? So if you were going to have a Mopar, what would it be?
Mine's going to be like a 72 Hemi Cuda or 71.
I can so see that. That would be DragBoss's whip right there.
Yep, that would be it. Now
I can see that.
I did have a Duster once. I had a 72 Duster with what is that motor? The slant 6 with a 3-speed. That was the best damn car I ever had. I think I paid $200 for it.
Yeah.
It only ran on 5 cylinders. You could pull a spark plug wire. It ran the same. Didn't even need that. I love that thing for like 4 years like that. You'd stop at idle. The whole motor would shake like this. The whole car. Great.
My buddy Robert had a slant 6 come into his shop one time that had a miss in it. It was some daily driver. I don't know what it was in, a Valiant or something, but it was a slant 6. And came in the shop for a miss. And he looked at the plugs and everything, pulled the valve cover. Turns out the thing had spit a lifter out.
Okay.
The lifter was completely out of the bore. And they had been running it like this for over a year.
Oh, yeah.
With just no oil pressure. I mean, it probably made a faint amount of oil pressure, but just not much, just enough to keep it from locking up. And they drove it that way. And he explained to him, probably, what has happened, accelerated wear, et cetera. He said, no, just make it run again. Put the lifter back in the hole, push rod, all of that. And they drove it for years and years after that. Those are tough engines. They are really crazy. So this is a good question for you. You mentioned it earlier. Thoughts on the W2 heads? Jim Rogers had a set in the 80s on a Duster, and he raced them. So you tell me what you think about the W2s. You actually mentioned this to me by email before the live.
Here's the deal. I'll tell you. I'm some kind of weird cylinder head aficionado. I love to collect cylinder heads. I don't know why. I just like to buy them and then I want to run them and see what they do. But I already been looking for W2 heads. I already found a set with a Holley strip dominator intake for like $1,400. And I'm seriously thinking about grabbing them because I want to see what they do. The fantasy, when I was a kid, Glidden's in 75. I'm just getting into the scene, so to speak, of pro stock, and Direct Connection had a catalog you could get. It was amazing. and all this stuff was coming out. W2s, I think, were 78, somewhere around there, because Glidden had them on his car in 79. So I want to see what they do. I don't know much about them. I think they take special valve train, plus trying to get an intake for them. But I'm just amazed by those heads, and I want some, and I want to see what they do on a 340, or a D-stroke 360. With, I don't know.
What are you going to put that in?
I have no idea. I just want to build a motor.
You know what you should do to make the internet turn on fire?
No.
Put it in that Cougar. I'm not kidding. Just do it for a season. Why not?
You could do it with a motor.
I know you could.
I could do it easy.
I know you could. You do that for one season, and the internet will catch on fire like lava. And I'm telling you, I really think that just the views would come close to paying for it.
Hey, man, I'll tell you.
It would be so much fun. I would be all about that.
Now, Ronnie Kirkpatrick, he owns the Nostalgia Post Office Association. Sacrilege. But
exactly. That's why you should do it.
He has a 383 for me he wants me to take and build. I don't know anything about it. I'm not afraid to try it. It'd be kind of cool to build a big block Mopar. I don't know.
Yeah, they're happy engines. Yeah, look how much hate you've already generated. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah,
this is why you look. If to get a comment like that out of calm, cool, and collected Andy, that is a good reason to do it. Just for a season. What's wrong with it? Just for a season. You know why he's afraid? He's afraid because you might like it too much.
I don't know, man. I don't think it can replace a Cleveland.
No, but I'll tell you what.
I want to dyno it. I want to see what they can do, man. They must be able to make. Shoot, look at my stuff. A W2 with good heads, good flow, single 4 Dominator. I bet you're making about 780. You've got potential for probably 780.
Well, yeah, you could. Depends on what you do with it.
Right.
You know what? Now, I bet he wouldn't be that adverse to me putting a Cleveland in the Dart Sport just as an experiment.
Well, that'd be nice, huh?
Well, that'd be wild, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You see, we brought the weird hour upon ourselves. And by the way, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. We don't want to keep you captive forever. So whenever you got life or tired or whatever,
I'm good,
you can bolt anytime you want. We're just hanging out.
How many people are on here now?
Looks like we got 38.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never done a Tuesday live. Usually I have anywhere from 30 to 80, but it's Tuesday, so we'll see. But I got a great guest, and I think that's the key. Got a lot of regulars in here, too, like Greg McDonald. I only owned one Ford, a 73 Comet 6-cylinder. Step on the brakes and end up 2 lanes to the right. My 70 Dart had one of the upper control arm bushings on the left was completely missing. Like there was no rubber in it. Right. And you hit the brake pedal, it just made a left turn.
Yeah.
It's great. Dan says second-gen Hemi gets the least amount of guff for being in a Ford or well, of course not. Whoever complains about a second-gen Hemi going in anything, they're just thrilled to see one. DeSoto Hemi belongs in the Dart. Mike Collins, that's gonna happen actually. That DeSoto Hemi, when I get that together, I want to put that in a 68 Dart 270.
Is that a 352 like a Fire Dome?
So the Dodge Hemis, and I couldn't tell you why this is. It's so crazy. They were all different sizes. So when you're talking about the first-gen Hemis, the Dodge is much smaller. The DeSoto was a little bit bigger. The Chrysler was a little bigger still. And isn't that wild? They all had different bore spacings.
Wow. And
nothing interchanges. And the DeSoto is the hardest one to build. It's the one in the middle.
Okay.
So, but then again, if it was easy, everybody would do it. But Andy Wood and I were looking at the intake for that. I actually found a new old stock intake, an old Offenhauser intake for this thing for a Dodge, and the Valley is the same. So we're going to do a little bit of port work and things like that, and we're going to adapt that to the DeSoto because it didn't come with any kind of intake.
Nice.
And we'll run 2 4s on it. It's not a tunnel ram or anything, but it's going to be a nice driver. And I got plans that I want to do with that car. So we'll see where it goes. Yeah, Dan had to tell us 37 watching, 36 likes, no dislike. Oh, just give them time. They I don't think I ever have a video that somebody didn't dislike.
You probably can't
So what
see
you
that.
got there, Tim?
So this is a casting I got, and here's the plan.
I'm going to make that bigger for them.
Yeah, let me see if I can get it better to.
I don't know if I can do that or not. I was going to try to make that bigger for them.
Now where did it go? Somehow.
No, I put it back like it. Well, here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could just get you full screen. I just don't know how to do it.
So this is a C3 head. This is like the last head before they went to the Yates head. So this has the Cleveland valve angles, but what's unique about it is it has Yates exhaust ports, kind of Yates intakes, and the combustion chamber was a Cleveland, but someone had welded this up into a modern type Cartoid combustion chamber. So here's what I want to do, and we were on with Andy, and what I want to do is send a set of heads to David Vizard and have him look these over and see what he thinks about them. I guess I'm the only one here. Oh,
no, I was just making your screen bigger so we can see it better. Yeah, it's an experiment. But no, hey, look at that. The views went up when I jumped off of there. Isn't that cool? Yeah, Vizard, man, that guy is incredibly smart.
I know it.
You can't go wrong if he's doing some heads for you.
Well, these things have so much work done. I want to see what they're any good. Somebody's welded all the ports in here, welded them all and reshaped it. A lot of work. I want to see what they come up with for flow numbers.
Yeah,
so they're coming to you.
He's achieved some just amazing stuff. Yeah, talking about the weird Hemi thing when Mopar had the BOP thing going. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly what it was like. Andy likes the heads. Who wouldn't? That you got some incredibly cool stuff there. One thing I almost use as a thumbnail for this live is that tunnel ram you have that has the welded up area between the trim and the runner.
Yeah.
And I just think it's neat how far they went to straighten that runner up before you had sheet metal intakes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I want to run it. I want to see what it does.
Oh, man. If any of you guys watching have not seen the last video that DragBoss put up, not tonight, but the one before that of the Pinto with the, the 6-cylinder with the Cleveland head, that is amazing. That is amazing. I thought this looks cool. I thought I'd click on it, and I couldn't stop watching. That was just incredible. You got to see that. If you haven't seen that, I don't care what your make of choice is. That video is a must-watch. Oh, this is interesting. I think the A3 would have been a next-gen Cleveland if continued.
You want to see about that? You want to see one?
Sure.
Then you can see it and what we're talking about when you hear the number. Hang on.
Sure.
So give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, take your time.
Actually, it's right here. So here's the A3.
All right. We're going to zoom in for you. Let's check it out.
So this is the one we're going to dyno test that was ported by Morgan. So this is the Cleveland combustion chamber here. That's the typical one. So the A3 head was just an iron Cleveland high ported head that was turned into aluminum. The ports are raised, already built in. Intake ports. They're much smaller than the regular 4-barrel Cleveland. These are a little bit bigger since I've had all this port work done to them by Morgan. So I was doing the gaskets on these today. I hate doing gaskets when it's on the engine, cutting them out. I like to do it like this, bolt them in there, and cut them out with a knife. I like them perfectly shaped and lined up. But you'll see the work that was done here. And this I think you'll appreciate. But they moved the push rods here. All the intake push rods were moved way over. This brass sleeve was put in. It's kind of hard to see, but you might be able to see it here.
Oh, I sure can.
So you can see all the epoxy added on there.
So I'm doing an experiment here. I got you zoomed in, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you see this good?
I can. Yeah.
I mean, you can see that. Look at that flow.
You know, that's a notorious problem with the small block Mopar is having that push rod pinch. But look at that. That's like a sewer-sized port.
Well, you can see the sleeve in there. See how we cut it over and moved the push rod over the whole port?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sleeves.
Look at that.
So these right now are flowing almost 400 CFM.
Yeah.
For almost a 50-year-old head.
That's amazing.
So he said I could pick up probably 8 to 10% of what I'm making now. And then the intakes, we won't get them all down, but they're all matched to go. So what's that?
You don't have to get everything down on one show. You know, that's why
No, I'm not getting anything down.
Coming back.
But I'm saying we're going to test, when we dyno, we're going to test 2 different intakes, 2 different carbs, Dominator and a 4150. So.
And Andy is exactly right. That's port bias at its best. That's what I get jealous of is being, man, when you can run that kind of canted valve and you have all that meat to work with on your cylinder walls, you can bias that port just a crazy amount to get better flow. So Aaron's asking, you know, you said 400 CFM and how much lift? How much lift do you typically run?
And that's the thing, Aaron. You're exactly right. Who cares if it flows, 400 CFM at 900 lift if you're only running a 600 lift cam? So that does make some sense. You got a point there. In this case, the cam that I'm going to run is going to be matched. It's the same cam I've been running since 2013. It's a custom cam I made with Mark from Bullet Cams. I used my Dyno 2000 program. I used that and Drag 2000 to build my stuff. I run it through these programs and I come up with what to use. And I call him and talk to him, and then he reground a cam that I had for these specs. So it might not benefit because I didn't change the cam. I just want to see what happens when I put this head on it. I can always put it on a better cam that's matched for that, but he's right. But just for instance, these are flowing 385 at 600 lift, and I'm running a cam that's going to be 744.
You know, and that's interesting too. Like a lot of guys will buy aftermarket heads,
sure,
and they see that flow number, and then they don't read the print cam, and that flow number was achieved at 750.
Right.
And then in these same aftermarket heads, what you don't realize is how they don't flow as well when you're, say, 200 and 300 off the seat. And the better heads will flow well closer to the seat. So if you look at a curve from the flow bench on one of Vizar's heads, his make more power everywhere because of his attention to detail close to the seats. And that's what you can't get in an off-the-shelf head.
Exactly. It's the area under the curve that you customize. That's where the power is. You're not running up there very much, at 900 lift and 8,200 RPM.
Right. I can take a head with a mediocre port job, put the valve an inch off the seat and say, look at these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but they don't mean anything.
It comes down to the track and what it runs. That's how I look at it. You know what I mean?
The track is a dyno.
That's it.
The track is the real dyno.
Exactly.
So, 69 Jenks in the house. Hey, we got Australia here.
What's up, Yags?
Always makes for a good party. He has some good stuff. That's a great channel.
I like his videos.
Oh, yeah. I love his stuff.
So listen, subscribe to our channels. Everybody that's on here, go around to the circle and hook up with everybody so you can keep on top of these different builds we got going on.
Sure. I mean, I would say most people watching are subscribed to ours, but there are some great channels there in the comments. Whatever you do, check them out. Jank's channel there is fantastic. Yes. Wild Rose Garage, Unity Motorsports. All of you guys that have good channels, feel free to tell us what you're working on right now and plug your channels. That's part of the fun.
For sure.
This is your chance, guys. My channel's little, but between mine and DragBoss there, we've got over 10,000 subscribers, that might be able to hear about what you're working on.
Oh, sure.
Like Wild Rose Garage, he has great content, and he had very few subscribers. Like, this guy's doing way too cool of stuff for 50 people to be watching. And so we got him pushed up onto Tony's channel with a community post. And he has one video with like thousands of views. And now all these people are like, oh, man, that's really cool. I'm like, yeah, I know it's cool. And he was doing this for 50 people. He needed it. So now he's got several hundred subscribers and it's, catching on. But, yeah, check these channels out, guys. There's some great stuff.
And it's with me and like you, it's nothing special. I'm just working in my garage doing stuff I always did for the last 40 years. I just doing a little more of it and showing people, And
now you got a medium. Now you got a medium to share it. So Dan E. Boyd wants to see some channel links. Fubar, you can always count it. Fubar's a great guy. He's a mystery guy. We call him Fubar the Axe. He takes care of it. He takes out the trash when needed. Fubar's great. But that's a link there. Fubar put up.
Got it.
Aaron Hinckley says, I guess I'll give a camera out and give it a go. Yes, that's exactly how to get started. Exactly how to get started. What you got to do is say, today I'm going to make a video. Take your iPhone, make a video, 1 minute, and post it. And that's the biggest first step to get started.
That's the truth, too.
Andy says, John is my YouTube advisor. I don't know. I'm the one that'll pick on him when needed. Have you ever had a YouTube advisor? Did you see that live that we did with Andy and Vizard where his valve covers? He did the unboxing of his valve covers.
I don't remember that. I must have missed it.
So I'll just tell you. You can see it. So Andy, of course, he's got that mixed up boss, and he's got these really cool custom valve covers, right? And I picked them up for him because just by complete coincidence, I was going to be in Northeast Georgia the day before I was going to see him at Vizard's seminar. So, yeah, I'm glad to do it. I went and picked up his valve covers. So I'm talking to Greg Brown about these things, and I'm like, hey, we got to have some fun with Andy. Do you have another box that's just a little bit bigger than this one? And Greg's like, yeah, we had the same idea. So I took that box empty out to a parking lot and ran over it. So this box looks like it was just destroyed in transit. Yeah. Then I dropped his valve covers down in them and put the Fragile sticker right on top. So we're here live on this thing, and I'm presenting Andy with this box that looks like it's been run over by a truck because it has.
Yeah.
And so Andy had this moment of, did my valve covers get destroyed? He had that brief moment, but he handled it like a champ. And he opened it up and saw they were fine. But
that's
no,
hilarious.
We have fun like that. You got to have fun. Hey, all right, Mike, subscribe to Wild Rose. And yes, you should. And Aaron Hinckley says, I'll let you know so I can get some advertising. Make some content, Aaron Hinckley. We want to see it.
Let's see. So I'm going to write these down. We got Wild Rose.
Wild Rose Garage, yes. Nolan, yep. Wild Rose Garage. Great.
Fubar put up something else. Muscle City Madness.
Yeah. Check that out.
Thanks, Fubar.
And, of course, Unity Motorsports Garage. If you're not subscribed to that, you don't know what you're missing.
That's it.
I got to tell you, Andy, it's funny you say that because we think of Andy now as a guy with 11,000 subscribers and all this awesome content.
Yeah.
I remember when he had a couple hundred subscribers and he was in the comments of Tony's videos. And I just said, this guy's obviously much, he is not your average commenter. This guy's really sharp. And I go look at his channel. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This content is amazing. And so when Tony was looking for a Ford project, I said, I know the one you need. And I hooked him up, and he did this incredible sizzle reel with Casper, doing like 100-foot-long burnout, low sevens at the track with it. An awesome, awesome video with Casper, and his channel just exploded. It's incredible. Yeah, VRM subscribed. All right.
Yeah,
Speaking of all right, Just Mopar Joe in the house. That is another channel that just should have 20 times more subscribers than it does. He's got 4,000 some subs, and he has incredible content. Got to check him out. He and I collaborated on a 318 build this past spring. Yep. So much fun. I want to do more with Joe. But that's a channel you got to check out. That's a great channel.
I said to my wife, I said, you know what? Once I get 1,000 subscribers, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I went to 5,000, and I said the same thing. And now I'm at like 8 or something. And I said, after 10, I'm not doing any more, And I'm not in it to get subscribed. Like everybody wants to subscribe to me. I just do my own thing, but I want to share it with people. And the way you share it is by getting it spread around. You know what I mean? That's how you do it. And
That's all I ever did. That's all I ever did. I had 60 subscribers for years. And then I remember I got to 100, and I wasn't doing a lot of content, but I got a couple hundred subs from a video of drunks getting thrown out of a football game. And then Tony featured my car, and I got up to like 600-700 subs.
Yep.
And then I did the collaboration on Plan Z and got over 1,000 subs. And so usually they come in jumps. They come in increments. And so you never know what you're going to do that's going to jump it up even more. One big thing Andy did was that history of the Boss 429.
I saw that.
Oh, my gosh. That had 250,000 views in a couple days.
I was like, wow. But that, to me, not to put that down, I know about that. I never thought about making videos about that. But you could make a video about it again, and it'd be a whole different video. There's so much information. You know what I mean?
I think a history video would be a good one for you.
What's a history of what now? Give me what are you saying?
Well, anything like just the history of the development of a production part would be interesting. Okay. That kind of thing, because you certainly know about it. Just Mopar Joe's just subscribing to DragBoss. What took you so long? DragBoss is a great channel. Just kidding, but.
Someone asked about ignition systems, about going to the track.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. I wanted to catch you.
I've only used 2 ignition systems. One was a Mallory and a High Fire 4. I used that for about 15 years with no issues until the distributor got worn out. And then I've gone to, everyone else goes to MSD just because of availability. I use the Digital 7. So I think MSD is probably the way to go. I don't know much more about the other, who's else out there, really.
I've run the 6A, 6AL stuff. They work okay. They work fine. A street road runner, I'm going to tell you. So, one, I'll give the Stone Age answer that everybody's going to hate. Yes, if you run good stuff, you can run a points ignition and do awesome with it. Now, most people don't want points because, like me, they've had them fail in the middle of nowhere. And there are good electronic alternatives. But if I had a street road runner and I wanted to have a good, dependable ignition system, I think it is hard to beat a factory Chrysler electronic box. But you want to get an older one that's American made and never get one of those horrible parts store junk ones they make now. Never get one of those. Those are garbage on a stick. Get an older Mopar box before they made the junk ones. So try to find one that's like 10, 15 years old, a Mopar one, and go with it. Stock distributor works great. Curve it. Obviously, do the thing with the springs, lighter springs. Take about 1/3 of that plate, weld it up. You can use an FBO plate. By the way, Joe is a dealer for those, and I got my first FBO plates for the distributor to limit the mechanical advance. Nice stuff. But that's what I'd recommend.
I see that, Andy. I'll make a Cleveland history. I'll do one for that, for the Cleveland motor.
Perry Ford's guessing that Andy's going to make 785 and 625 pound-feet. That's not a bad guess. That is not a bad guess. My guess is he's going to make right at 600 pound-feet, probably just over. I think he'll crest just over 600 pound-feet. That's a guess. Fubar put up the link, DragBoss Garage. Yeah, people come to these lives in shifts. So even though we've had pretty consistent number of people watching, they're not going to be the same people necessarily that were on from the very beginning. So, yeah, if you're not subscribed to DragBoss, and if you're not sure if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who this guy is on my channel, Tim Halstead, you are missing out. He's got to be cool to have a Ford guy on my channel, right? No, just seriously, but he's got some cool stuff, and his video is all that stuff you see in the background. Lots of cool stuff. Yeah, Andy seconds that history of the Cleveland.
Yeah, I will. I'll take care of it.
Part of what makes that so good is because the Cleveland was such a short-lived motor. What was it, 69, 70 to 74, something like that?
Basically 70 to 74.
Yeah.
Then the tooling went to Australia, and they used it up until the 80s.
Yeah, but that's part of what makes it so cool.
Mm-hmm.
This guy likes Andy's way of doing history videos. Andy does great. I'm telling you what, he is a very talented video editor.
Oh yeah.
I was really surprised by how well his stuff is edited. The Muscle City Madness, the orange box went out 100 miles in from Summit. Yes, the newer ones are junk. If you want to get a good Mopar box, don't get the, I hate to say it, but these Chinese-made boxes and ones they get from Summit and the new Mopar Performance stuff, it's junk. The old ones I've not had any problem with. They made them cheaper, and that's what it was. Andy's had good luck with Mallory till MST. I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I actually have sitting on my shelf, I don't have any idea what I'm ever going to do with them. I have a set of factory new old stock Mallory dual points and distributor cap, rotor button, basically a whole tune-up kit for a dual point Mallory distributor for a Ford sitting on my shelf. A friend of mine gave me that. One of these days I'll do something with it, I guess. Jim's asking, love the Cleveland. Did Andy ever do a bogus small block? I don't know what that means. If you're talking about Andy Wood, I've never seen Andy do anything bogus. Wild Rose Garage is asking, the Cleveland is one motor I've never had and know little about. You know, one thing that might be good when you do your Cleveland history video is an overview on what makes that engine so special. Like, there's little things like the way they did the timing cover built into the block. Sure. You know, that's how I recognize one.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and the canted valves. Is it a big block? Is it a small block? Because a lot of people are familiar with the 351 modified 400 and the Cleveland lineage, and they think, oh, that must be a big block. So you could do a Cleveland 101 for guys like me who aren't really familiar with Ford stuff, and that'd be a great video, an educational video.
I did have one that was similar to that. I mentioned it, because they're always calling it a small block, and it's really not a small block Ford. Technically, it's a 335 series engine. That's what it was technically. But people call it a small block Ford and kind of, categorize it like that.
Well, and they'll call the 455 a big block Buick, right? Kind of the same thing. It's not really.
Don't they use the same block, 350 and 455?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. A lot of people will get fooled by the cubic inches.
Oh, yeah. Why is it called Cleveland? Because they made them in Cleveland, up about an hour away. Cleveland Casting Center.
What's become of the Cleveland Casting Center? Is it still there?
It's still there. I go by it once in a while if I go to Cleveland. I think they make the EcoBoost there or something now. But the factory's still there. I don't know if it looks the same, but people like to drive by it and take pictures.
This is the truth. It's a small block that thinks it's a big. Yeah, I wouldn't dispute that at all. Andy says the Cleveland is what the big block Chevy or big block Chrysler, either one is what it should have. Yeah, you're right. It should have. It should have. Oh, okay. So I learned a lot from these commenters, a lot.
Oh, I see what he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim says a Cleveland head on a small block is called a bogus block. Cool.
Instead of Austria 2 that had the block made for the head, the water passages, they're just putting it on a Windsor, like a cleaver.
I've never explored it. I think the bore centers are just a little smaller. But it would be neat to see if a Cleveland head would fit on a small block Chrysler. I've never seen it done. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. Hint, hint. I wouldn't mind trying it, but I'd have to do some experimentation to see.
Well, look at the LS head. That goes on a Cleveland block, right?
Yeah, it's 20 thousandths difference.
Yeah.
It's 20 thousandths, so you can make that work.
Pontiac too.
Ford never called them big or small block. Well, you had a 335 series and a 385 series. But if you tell somebody you have a 335 or a 385 series, they don't know what in the world you're talking about.
Unless they're a Ford guy.
Well, that's like the one thing I didn't know about them. Yeah, big and small blocks get convoluted about 380. I know that people think this is weird, and purists like our friend Tony I think it's just grates on him when I say this. I kind of think of a 400 Chrysler, which is a big block.
Okay.
I think of it as a giant small block. And the reason I do is because it has a short stroke just like a small block. And it has a small number of cubic inches relative, but I think of it as a small block with giant bores because it's got that really short stroke. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. But
what's the stroke on it?
On a 400, it's 338.
Wow.
And a 318 is 330. But the bore on a 400 is 4.34 inches.
434.
Right from the factory.
Wow.
And you can do
crowding.
You can do 60 without even checking it. You can have a 4-inch 400 bore on just a factory short block, just right out of the gate.
I never knew that. Wow.
So think of the valves you can run. Think of the unshrouding you can get, and that's why I think the 400 is just so awesome. I love a 400. I don't own a 400, but I love them. Yeah, this guy's got a 400 in his Roadrunner. 400 is my favorite big block Chrysler. I'd have to say a 318 is probably my favorite small block. So what is your favorite non-Cleveland Ford engine?
Non-Cleveland Ford engine. I would probably have to say probably a 429.
429?
Yeah.
Very cool.
That 385 series stuff. I never, not that I'm not a FE guy. I just always found my buddy is, and I love them, and they're great heritage, and I just never really like to have to deal with the water and the intake and all that business. You know what I mean? When you pull them out. I don't like that 429 number, man.
I don't like any water in the intake. That just seems so weird to me. Why would you ever do that? And the big block Chrysler has a dry intake, but the small block has one with water, and I've always hated that. I always wish it didn't. Okay, so
Mopar Den is another one.
Mopar Den is a great guy, and he has a neat channel. He started putting up a lot of neat content the last year. Neat guy, super neat guy. Okay, so DragBoss wakes up tomorrow, and he's a Chevy guy. What is your Chevrolet?
I think probably the engine I would like the best would be a ZL1, all aluminum 427.
Wow, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Okay, what car?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. My engine builder has one in a 40 Ford Coupe he's trying to sell me.
Really?
Yeah. It's original ZL1 motor. They only made, a few hundred of them?
Huh.
I don't want the motor. I just want the car,
okay.
Put a Cleveland in it. But I do love that 427 ZL1. Ever since the 69 Camaro had it, I don't know. I was always impressed by that.
Interesting. So will there ever be a day, I know this sounds crazy probably, there ever be a day you would try fuel injection on one of your cars?
Oh yeah. Sure.
You're a carb guy though.
Sure I would. But you know what? I don't want to get into something that's port injected or direct injection. The throttle body stuff, the fly-by-wire type stuff. I would like to try that and see how it is and see how responsive it is. But not, cool. I would, I'm not into port injection and going that far with that crazy. But I would do it.
Sure. This guy says, hands down for me, Mr. PF Flyer, hands down for me regarding the Ford 385 class. Even the smaller 429 makes gobs of torque. I got to tell you, so my buddy Robert ran a 460 dynoed 1,020 horsepower, and he did it with a factory block and factory cast crank.
Wow.
No problem. And if you've ever seen the size of the mains and rod journals, and the rod journals were cut. They were turned offset 300 thousandths to run a 2.2 journal to get a stroker back before strokers were commonly available.
Yeah.
So that gives you a 4.15 inch stroke in a big block Ford. And if you open and the bore, he opened the bore up 140 thousandths on a 460 to run a true 4.5 inch bore. So it was a 528 inch engine using a factory block and a factory crank and factory head castings. So yeah, I got a lot of, if you can't respect factory stuff that can do that, how can you not?
Well, Ford Motorsport at one time, I'd have to say it's got to be the early 2000s, later 90s. They came up, they had a 600 cubic inch big block Ford kit, stroker kit. Pistons, rods, crank. Man, I wanted one of them. 600 cubic inches, 10 to 1, run 950s in your car, drive around town.
Shout out to Rude Mopar Dude, he's actually very polite. That name is just there to throw you off.
I've seen him around the boards.
Great guy. I met him at Carlisle.
Good to meet you, man. Good to meet you, Joe.
Yeah, a lot of these, they're just great people. All right, guys, we're coming up on 2 hours, and I don't want to put Tim into a coma of terrible questions I ask him. So we'll start getting your last licks in, and we'll work on wrapping up. How's that sound?
It sounds good. It's funny. We talk for 2 hours, and it's like it goes like this. I don't even realize it.
It's just flown.
4 hours.
It's just flown by. It's been so much fun. Danny Boyd says 400 Chryslers were making something like 235 horsepower in 1974. Yeah, like everything. Okay, look at the difference between the power you can make in a 351 modified 400.
Oh, yeah.
And when you just fix those couple little things, all right? Oh, my. That 400, I mean, you turn it off. So first of all, the 400 probably, it might have 8-to-1 compression. It may not even be quite that much. You can do a lot with a 400.
What did I have? I had a 78 LeBaron. No, Chrysler Cordoba. It was a 77 Cordoba. It had the gold medallions on the hubcaps.
Cool.
And it was it had a 360 lean burn system in it, I think I remember.
Yep.
Funky air cleaner. Man, I could not get that thing to run right. I just was like so frustrated. I ended up giving it away or something or trading it. I love that car.
And the thing we know now is if you get rid of that lean burn and you put in an old distributor and you curve it, that car would have flown.
Oh, my God, man. That was such a great car.
Yeah. Did it have rich Corinthian leather?
It did. Yeah, it was white with red leather, man. And I can remember those gold medallions.
Yeah. Ricardo Montalban would have been proud. You had rich Corinthian leather.
DragBoss, what's your favorite Mopar muscle? I'll tell you, my favorite car's got to be the 71 or 72 Cuda with a Hemi or a Duster with a 340.
All right. How can you go wrong with a 340? Who doesn't like a 340 Duster?
I want one, man, with a 4-speed, pistol grip shifter.
Yeah, man. Well, now let me tell you. So it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
So our friend Tony has this thing about purity in some things with Mopars. Like, for instance, he doesn't like to have wheels, let's say, on a car from the 60s that weren't available to the 70s. That's just a thing with him, right? I get it.
Yeah.
But another big one is he doesn't believe, and he said he has lost a friend over the idea of having a pistol grip shifter in an A-body because you couldn't get it from the factory. I know. He knows it's kind of a thing, but I think it's funny. I have a pistol grip shifter from an E-body. It will be funny to stick that in an A-body. So I told one of our regulars, usually here, Don English, I said, you need to get a pistol grip for your Valiant now just to freak Tony out. Oh, man. Mike Collins says he appreciates your time, as do I. I really appreciate DragBoss Tim's time. So glad to have you on.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I welcome and thank both of you guys for that. Thank you so much.
Dallas is back. His phone died. Okay, it happens. 400 needs maybe needs help. I'll tell you what, though, that 400 doesn't need much help. Get rid of the lean burn, better cam, a little bit of port work on the heads. They fly. Best 2 hours of TV in the USA, and I try to enjoy all the history and tech tips. Okay. I had a 76 Charger like a Cordoba, and it glided. Yeah. That's like the Charger nobody knows is a Charger.
Right. It was like the Magnum, the Cordoba,
Right. Mopar Den says, I was thinking of going with a bigger engine for the 66 Belvedere, but he loves the 273 and 318 as drivers. Mopar Den has that appreciation for the factory stuff, the factory trim and the engines, and he likes stock cars, as do I. I think that's cool. I don't know what you – straight up timing set. I don't know what he means by that.
When I was a kid, there was a guy who had I know it was a 273 and a Duster. Now, I was just getting into the car scene and learning about stuff, but this car was a 4-speed and it sounded bad, man. And it maybe ran 13s, I don't know, maybe 12s, but I never heard of a 273. I'm like, and just to hear that thing, it was like, man, that thing is nasty. It would rev like, woo, woo, quick.
So the 273, it's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Back when that engine was a thing, that was their performance before the 340.
Okay.
The 273, you could get it with a pretty high compression ratio, like 10.5 or a little more to 1, a 4-barrel, a little meaner cam. They had solid adjustable rockers, and they actually made more horsepower than the 318. And they made pretty close to what a 340 made.
Wow.
Yeah, but they would rev, they would run like a Formula S Barracuda would have that. And then they did away with that when they came out with the 340.
Okay.
So they jumped straight to it. Now, the downside of it is they never made a performance version of the 318. Yeah, they did put a 4-barrel on the 318 later, and 318s will run. Sure. In fact, our friend 318 Will Run has a channel named that, 318 Will Run. But they never made a performance version of the 318. So a lot of people are familiar with the screaming 273s, and of course everybody knows about the 340. But not too many people know, the 273 performance version did kind of get lost when the 340 came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
You remember the 77 and 78 little Red Express truck?
Oh, yeah.
I think that had a 364 barrel in it.
It did. And that truck from the factory had a better 0 to 100 time than anything Motor Trend tested that year.
Did it really?
Yeah, it did. And I think, because even though it was heavy, I think it had a lot of gear in it.
Okay.
And so I think they were beating Corvettes that year on their 0 to 100s. Of course, as you know, for Corvettes, that was an abysmal time for performance.
Of course.
In fact, it got so bad and embarrassing with the Corvettes, they took the whole year of 1983 off. So
a crossfire injection V8. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff. I drove an early 80s Corvette one time that wouldn't get out of its own way.
Thanks,
if you told me it went 100, I would say, what, did you push it off a cliff? Did Thelma and Louise driving to get it to 100?
I like the exhaust coming out of there. They used to sound good, man, with the side pipes coming up.
And that was what sold them.
Mm-hmm.
That was what sold them. The 289 Ford, 283 Chevy, 273 Mopar, great little motors. Yes, they were. Yeah. A lot of these stick shift racing series, that's what they run, the small cubic inch engines. And that's why they scream. Yeah, Dallas is right. Corvette didn't take the 80s off. Ask the Grand National. Oh, yeah. Grand National roasted that car.
Man, didn't it, though?
Oh, yeah.
I remember those GNXs when they were coming out.
Gosh. So about 100 years ago, when I would go to the gym every day, you can get your laughter over with now. There used to be this old man in there I worked out with, and he had a GNX, and it was a garage kept car, but he would drive the thing just regularly on the street because he's like, nobody's gonna tell me what I can do with my show car, right? So he left the gym one day, and I bet his burnout was over 100 feet long. He would drive that thing like he stole it.
Wow.
But man, it's amazing how that car performed. If you know how small that engine is, that was
one, isn't it?
It's a 231, but it's turbocharged, and that was really when turbos started becoming a thing.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And Buddy Ingersoll probably sold more of those cars than anybody, And Dallas had a good point about Ingersoll's V6 in Pro Stock. They outlawed it, and yet it was the only car you could go to a dealer and buy.
I know it.
I know. I'm like, that's what Pro Stock needed.
Well, one of my subs offered me a 79 Fairmont, which Brad Witt, I'm ready to pick it up, man, so get back to me. But he lives in the town where Buddy Ingersoll's car is. It's sitting in the garage, and his family's
still there.
Yeah, it's under wraps. Been there for 30 years. So if I go pick this car up, it's in Illinois, then he said he would call the people up, and I could come down and look at it. Maybe take.
Can you video it? Can you do video? Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be
Yeah, it's been
fantastic.
sitting there since he died, man, and I don't know how long
Oh,
it's been, but
I would love to see that.
beautiful. I can
If
still see
you,
him racing Glidden in '86 in my head. You know?
yeah, if you guys have not seen the video, I wish I had the name of it. If I knew we were going to be talking about it, I might have gotten a clip to show them. But there is a clip of Buddy Ingersoll running his V6 in pro stock in IHRA and laying waste to the field in that thing.
Oh yeah,
with a V6, and it was incredible.
yeah, Jenks. I'm gonna get it if I can.
I love Fairmonts.
Well, my buddy that does my welding and all the chassis stuff, he wants it. He said, you get the car and I'll build it." So we'll see.
One of these days, I'm going to be driving along and I'm going to see some roached out 4-door Fairmont, and it's going to be incredibly hard for me to not come home with it, because I just think that makes a fantastic sleeper.
They do, man.
Yeah. I was in Charlotte one year, and there was a guy there, and he had and I think it was a 4-door, it was beige, and it was just rough old paint, the remains of the vinyl top. It was a sleeper. He had mufflers on it, but you looked inside the car, and he had his aftercoolers in the car, and they were hidden in a cooler. He had like this big igloo cooler in the car.
Oh wow!
So unless you actually looked close under the upholstery and could see his piping to it, you didn't realize why that giant cooler was in the back seat. But that car would scream. It would run down in the 8s, and it just looked so rough. It probably hadn't been washed in 10 years, and I just loved it. Loved everything about the way he was doing that. Hey, thank you, Mopar Den. I appreciate that. Mopar Den, he's such a generous guy. We appreciate him. And speaking of Mopar Den, the first thing I'm hanging up on my wall back here, I'll just go ahead and tell you guys because it'll appear next live. Mopar Den gave me a welding shield that's been hand pinstriped. So you know how guys will do the hand pinstriping on cars and all that, which is an art form. There aren't many guys that do that, right?
Dying.
This guy did it on a welding shield, and Mopar Den ended up with it, and he gave it to me, so I'm hanging that up on the wall back here. It's not here today because I did too much technical work, but now that I got that sorted out, I can decorate that's going on the wall behind me. Hey, Tom Muse joined us. Yes, we're still on. Yeah, Tom. I'm not holding Tim hostage. We can wrap up. We said we were going to wrap up the 2 hours. So we're wrapping up now, but thanks for joining us.
Buttoning it up.
Yeah, we're buttoning it up. Dallas says his favorite pro stock 70-71 Mercury Comet, single overhead cam years.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Tijuana Taxi, what a memorable car that was. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. Is there anything you want to plug, Tim? Anything coming up on your channel? Anything you want us to be looking out for? Anything you want to tell us?
You know what? Just stay tuned. I like to say that. I've had that catchphrase for probably 40 years. Stay tuned. I'll try to keep going with the videos and keep everybody abreast of the situation and make stuff that everybody enjoys too and learn something from. So I appreciate that. Hopefully that I can get this head and this thing to the dyno within the next couple weeks. You know, that's all I can do is say stay tuned and we'll be back for another live version. Now, with that said, I have talked to Joe Pappas with the Mopar Missile. So he should be back this week. And I had to send him a webcam so we can do a live video. And then I'm trying to get a hold of Paul Jenkins, another pro stock guy. And then I have a couple of guys that are on the works that I'm trying to bring in. So,
you know, I'm not into long videos per se, but for any of you guys in the comments who have missed it, he did a series of live streams, Tim did, with Rusty Glidden.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, of course, Bob Glidden's gone. Bob, we lost Bob Glidden nearly 4 years ago. And you do see a little bit of media with Billy. Billy has a very different personality, but he's in the media more because of what he's doing. But Rusty's a rare treat. And it's like Tim just found him. And he told us all kinds of cool stuff from back in the day. So those lives are worth watching on replay. You can't comment live, but man, the stories were firsthand and they were incredible. So keep tabs of what Tim's doing. His guests are awesome.
Well, thank you. The Reverend's coming back. People love to hear him talk.
Yes.
he'll be back pretty darn soon. Andy and I are going to do another show sometime, maybe with one with less technical issues, he said. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Give a quick shout out to Zacchaeus. Thanks, Zacchaeus. He's a subscriber of mine. I told him I'd give him a shout out. Thanks, Mike.
Well, thanks all you guys. We got to let Tim go because I'm hopefully he had a good enough time that he'll come back and join us some other time. The invite's always out there. We'd love to have you on anytime. But for now, thank you guys for subscribing to his channel. I want to thank Mopar Den for the super chat. Thanks a bunch. It goes right back into the channel. So, I appreciate that. I want to thank my moderators, Fubar, Just Mopar Joe, and Unity Motorsports Garage. Those are my team of mods. And you notice we didn't have a troll problem all night because they got their axes sharp, right? So anyway, thanks all you guys for coming on here and subscribing to Tim's channel. Thank you. We're going to do another live soon, and the doors and invite's always open for you to come back, Tim. So we'll wrap this one up tonight, but good night, all of you guys.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks, John.